Cool.
Boom. Welcome to the very first Golden Sun podcast. I have my friend here, Nene, and we decided we were talking the other day. We are having a really fun conversation. We're like, you know what? Why don't we just get on together and just have a conversation, record it, and start doing some podcasting? So, welcome, Nene, and thanks for joining.
Thank you, Amra. I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to grill you with these questions that I'm very excited to ask you about.
Yes. And so I met Nene. Our little backstory is when I moved to Puerto Vallarta. I met a community there at a little place downtown called Chakrana. It's a plant medicine community. And Nene here was visiting, and we ended up becoming friends when she was kind of palling around with everybody. So that's how we met. She's currently in the States. I'm still in Mexico, and that's why we're not doing it in person this time. But yeah, so we're gonna have a cool conversation. She has apparently some questions she's gonna ask, and then we'll just kind of take it from there. So by all means, let's jump right in.
Yeah, so I met Amunra at a Aya retreat. He was doing biofield tuning, and I had no idea what biofield tuning was. He had a little tune fork, and it was really amazing. I actually fell asleep, and I don't remember anything after that. But yeah, I want to know more about your story, Amra.
Okay, what would you like to know?
Let's start from the very beginning. So, let's start with uh, where you began your spirituality.
Okay, so that's a kind of a cool story actually. So I was in the Marines, and I served 5 years in the Marines in infantry, and did a tour in Afghanistan. Then I did a tour in Iraq, and in Iraq was in an explosion, so I almost lost my lower right leg. I'd bring my leg up to the camera, but I think it would be, I don't know if it can fold that way. I have a huge scar on my lower right leg underneath my knee, and so the last year of my service, I was in a unit called the Wounded Warriors, which is basically where I was recovering as I was preparing to make my transition to leave the military. And a man and a woman, a couple, came to visit us, and our commanding officer made us go and sit with them. And they were basically teaching us, which was about, at the time, like 10 or so guys were all recovering, to learn meditation. And so I had never meditated before or anything like this, and so wasn't spiritual or anything. I remember sitting in a recliner, one of those big overstuffed recliner chairs, and it was the woman who was guiding the meditation. And it was one of those meditations where she's like, focus on your toes, put all of your attention on your toes, and she would just go from the toes to the feet to ankles and up the body. By the time the meditation was over, I remember I was sitting in the chair and I opened my eyes and I was gone. I was completely, my mind was like just stopped. And I had never experienced anything like that before. It left a big impression on me. I didn't continue meditating at the time, so I just had the memory. And then I had shortly later, I got out of the military and I went back home. And I was having a kind of one of those dark nights of the souls, kind of this weird, awkward phase of like going from the military to back to the civilian, not being 100% yet, and just sort of depressed and like this. And I remember I was looking for answers, like, oh yeah, meditation, that was really cool. And so I started looking online, and just I found my guru or my teacher, Dr. Pillai. He was on a YouTube, and I watched a video, and it's this Indian man. He was really dressed like a very Indian, but he spoke perfect English. It was so shocking to me, and he really got my attention. Not only did he speak perfect English, but he was very like he spoke in a way that was very like practical, hard nosed, like very usable. It wasn't like flowery and just like, just some sort of spiritual. It was very practical, and it's like between the two, the whole thing just, I was very drawn to him, and that was the beginning of my spiritual journey, I guess. And that was around I think I found him in around 2010.
I'm curious, what was that YouTube video about? Or did you just kind of watch the video and then binge watch all his videos, or was it just that one video where you were like,
No, I think I went into a binge watch after it. I still have it saved somewhere. I should know. I had it memorized. I have so much information in my head at this point. It was him. He was wearing red, and he was talking about one of the main things takeaways was using a mantra. So it was a mantra for Ganesha.
mm,
It was the mantra Gum. It's a seed sound. It's called a seed sound or a bija mantra in Sanskrit. And I remember going in after watching the video and sitting in my room and trying to like use this mantra. And that was my first experience of like it was so weird and just like, such a interesting experience when you first doing it. But it was talking about that, and he was talking about removing obstacles from your life, and it was a really cool video. If I can find it, I'll have to share it with you because it's still to this day one of the best things that I've seen. Is, and then of course I went into a binge, and then I later end up meeting him or seeing him in person in like 2011 or so.
Mhm. And was that the catalyst of you going to India and like really diving deep into spirituality? Or like tell me more about India and how you got found yourself there.
Yeah, so it was the catalyst because I ended up going to India trip with one of his retreats. So every year he goes on birthday trips, or at least he used to. He hasn't been doing it now because he's kind of semi-retired. But he would take these big groups to these temples in India, and that was crazy. I mean, it's one of those things where it's one of those events in your life where you go there and you leave a different person. So major transformation. The temples in India are profound. Actually, been really called to. I want to go back there maybe next year in 2026. They're really cool. That's a kind of a different stories, but yeah, they really took off from there for sure.
Hmm. And when you went to India, what were you looking for when you were there, if you're open to sharing?
Um, I
Because a lot of
think
people go to India to like do a silent retreat or like reflect and find themselves. What would you say you were there for?
okay. So the tree is based around temples, and so in Dr. Pillai's teachings, which is he's so a little backstory on him. He comes from the Tamil Siddha tradition, the Indian mystics from southern India that are traced back to Kumari Kandam, the sunken continent that preceded the mainline Vedic culture. And I could talk about that for like 20 minutes. So they're even before in their tradition that is actually the cradle of civilization, the birthplace of spirituality there, and that's why all the active temples, the temples that are still alive, are all centered in southern India, Kumbakonam. It's the largest collection of temples in the world that are all alive, been kept alive for thousands and thousands of years. It's sort of the cradle of spirituality. Very, very powerful place. And the temples aren't, in their view, they're not just a religious thing like you go to a temple or church, they're technology. So the temples are constructed in very, very specific ways like an instrument. In fact, if you look at temples, there's been a lot of work of people who've seen them look at them like the pyramids, like circuit boards. And so the temples you can see are used to conduct energy, and they have this down to a science. Much of the stuff that we're discovering in the modern world has been extensively documented many, many thousands of years ago. So we go there for big transformation. You go to these different vortexes where they have these certain energy fields. And basically what it is the geographic location. I'm sure you're familiar with ley lines, where they have certain things. You look at a lot of the churches, like there's something called the Sword of Archangel Michael, which is this kind of ley line where they built all these churches, which actually they built churches on top of temples. And so there's different places around the world that have certain energies. And the temples, what they do is they build these instruments on top of these vortices to amplify them and to kind of contain them and make them usable in a very, very potent way. So there's temples for clearing karma from like many, many past lifetimes in Rameshwaram. You go there and there's, I think it's 21 wells. Each have a different potency in water. They dump on your head and it clears karma in the ocean. So the whole trip was about going there for transformation. That, to put it simply, a transformation.
Mm. And you were saying that you were going to temples and they were also pyramids?
Some of the Indian temples, if you look at them, they're kind of in the pyramid type of shape. You see that shape also in like ancient China. They have those, I think it's China or Japan actually, that has those kind of pointed type of buildings. This
Mm.
pyramid shape is found in all the cultures. It's because they're all drawing from the same universal principles, which originated, according to my tradition, in southern India, which actually there was a continent that was connected India, extended off from the southern tip of India. It was called Kumari Kandam. Sometimes people call it Mu and all that. So the original flood story that's retold in all the traditions, which are all copy and pasted. The story of Jesus is copy and pasted from Egypt, which is copy and pasted from India. The original flood story is actually the sinking of that continent, and so
Mm.
which is the remnants is now left in like Sri Lanka and southern India. So yes, the pyramids is part of that culture, and that's part of the technology. the pyramids, which we have a lot of research on in modern days.
I've always heard this conspiracy that, you know how there's always like three pyramids lined up and how they
Yeah,
line up to the Orion's belt?
and yeah,
What do you think about that?
yeah, 100%. They have
Yeah?
it. The pyramids in Egypt for sure. Yeah, and they're mapped to the Orion Belt, and then also they're aligned directionally as well, like the way that they were constructed, and also the length and distance of each side. The mathematical precision is even it's beyond even what our modern engineers and like people. We're not building buildings like that anymore. They don't even know. So they're still figuring a lot of it out, and they're supposed to be a civilization that was less than ours, but obviously there was super civilizations that were much more advanced than us that were here before us.
Yeah. From a design perspective, it's interesting to see how I guess we've strayed away from not tradition, but like des design principles in general, especially in architecture, because a lot of churches have like rounded corners and it's like beautiful architecture. And now we're reduced to like these four walls. And I think it messes with our spirituality in some way, but
I agree. I think it's intentional for sure.
yeah.
100% intentional. It kind of cuts you off from the soul and puts you more into the realm of the mind where everything's rationalized structure, which is the square symbol, which is they worship the cube in Mecca, which is all about the Saturn worship, which has a little cube on top of Saturn. So it's about containment, confinement, prison type of vibe, where the soul is very, it's abstract, it's round, it's beautiful. Some of this ancient architecture, even, I'm sure you may have heard about Tartaria and all the Tartarian structures in the United
No, what
States.
is that?
Oh man, that is a deep rabbit hole. I don't know if I want to get into that. This one, I'm not a
Uh-oh.
scholar or anything. I know a little bit about a lot. It's something I know a lot about. Tartaria is not something I know a ton about, but basically, a lot of these old buildings, like you look at the White House and what's it called? Union Square in New York. All these cities that we have, that these buildings were supposedly built and thrown up real fast, that we actually founded. That's why they were founded. We found these buildings already existed here. It was from a civilization that they attribute to Tartaria, which is where this mud flood theory comes in, where a lot of these buildings are buried, and so they're discovering them. But if you look at them, they're all built for conducting electricity, free energy. They had those little towers. The original fireplaces were actually conducting electricity. The knights, medieval times, the swords weren't actually just for fighting. They wore all that armor and stuff. It was for conducting electricity. They have pictures of them conducting looks like Tesla coils. And this gets into like spiritual stuff. Excalibur, for example, the stories of Arthur and the magical sword. And so there was a very advanced civilization in America. It wasn't just Indians living here. There was, even before that, there was an advanced civilization here. Some people even call it the original Egypt. And that gets into the stories of Atlantis and all that. But they have gone through great lengths to hide the real history of humanity, because they don't know. If you don't know where you came from and who you are, it's going to be much easier to control you, which was the whole agenda. And I don't believe these people are in power anymore, so I just want to put that little caveat in there. I believe we're on a timeline where they have been defeated and we're in a controlled demolition, which is why all this information is really coming up in droves at this point. So we're kind of sidetracked, but
I
this is
know.
this is
Oh
why I said we
gosh.
should jump on, because I get on and we just start like having these little weird conversations, and let's just record this.
I know. You know what? I was going to ask you about numerology, but now we're over here. Well,
Yeah.
okay. Do you want me to ask you like why numerology? Because there's always these other tools for people to not discover themselves, but find a way to like guide their life in a way that is through spirituality, right? Like there's astrology, there's numerology. Like why did you pick numerology?
Yeah, and so we don't have to talk about numerology, but I'm happy to talk about it. As you know, I'm a major numerology nerd. That's what I do. If you don't know, I'm a numerologist, for those who are watching. So backing up to the story of the spirituality and all that, finding my guru and all that, from that time, he's really big into astrology, Vedic astrology. So that's the Indian-based astrology. And I deep dived into that. I studied that. I do study that. But for some reason, it never pulled me like numerology. I never really became an astrologer. I kind of was more like a student of astrology, and I learned a lot of things, but never really wrapped it all together. Also studied a little bit of human design, but something about numerology when I got into it, it just pulled me. And I realized later that numerology is the master key that unlocks astrology and all the other divination systems because everything is coded to numbers. Even language, all the language is coded to numbers. And what are numbers is vibrational potential. And so sound is the building block to consciousness and matter. This is a quantum physics principle, which is also something that's existed for eons in the mystical traditions, that the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and God created everything with the Word. That's even the Bible. And in the mysticism, it's Om. Om is the fundamental
Um,
primary sound. All the other sounds come out of Om, which is Ah, U, Ma. And so when you look at sound, sound is language. And what is all the languages have in common is they're all coded to numbers. And that's why they say that mathematics is like the universal language of God, which is math or numbers are simply depicting vibrational potential. So one is a vibration that we symbolize with the number one, but it's actually much more than just an arbitrary number. And if you look at astrology, 12 signs, 9 planets, 27 stars or nakshatras, and all their permutation combinations and divisions and aspects, it's all numbers. Tarot deck is all numbers, and even the archetypes represented on the tarot deck, for example, number 19, the Sun card, is a personification of the number 19 in numerology. So there's a one-to-one correlation. So it's all numbers. And that's I think that's why I really got into it, because I'm very attracted to like fundamentalness, if that makes sense, getting to the bottom of stuff. And for me, numerology is the bottom of everything.
okay. And you mentioned numbers in tarot. Like, I've never really noticed. Is there numbers in tarot?
Yeah. So there's the main. I don't know if it's called the main arcana, the numbers 1 through 21. So each of those is an archetype that represents actually personifies one of the numbers in numerology. There's a little bit of a So, for example, in the ancient Babylonian times, which is where I'm a Chaldean numerologist first and foremost, also called Chaldean, which is the original spiritual numerology because it's more based on the causal, which is Pythagorean, is more on the effect, which is more about organization, which is a whole side topic. But their tarot is a little different. So, for example, in the modern tarot, the Empress card is number 3, but in
Whoa,
theirs,
wait, that's crazy. Look, I have this in my mirror right now.
wow, how about that synchron?
Empress.
How about that? So in their tradition, the original Empress card was number 1, and
Is
the
it
reason
because is it because it's the mother or
because number 1 in their view is considered the feminine winner mentality, which means that ones like the king, they don't like to do anything. They like to have the vision. But you see the Empress, she's wearing nice clothes, soft skin. She's not getting her hands dirty, and she just. Or the Emperor card, which in the modern tarot is 4, is actually considered 3 in the old tarot because he's the king, but he's wearing armor. He's prepared to fight, and he's the 3 energy is the masculine winner's conscious. So they're ones who go out and like do things and get things done. So like this, but yes, the tarot cards are all coded in numerology as well.
that's interesting. And I think that really plays into what alchemy teaches. Have you heard of the sacred marriage? How there's like men and women and we have different energies. And there's this saying that like men are easier to manifest in the material world than women are in the spiritual world. So,
So the sacred marriage is actually much deeper than uh, men and women. It's actually about the individual soul uniting with the oversoul, which is the woman is the individual represents the individual soul, and the man represents the oversoul, the sun and the moon. So
mm,
the moon gets its light from the sun. The moon is the mind, the psyche, the one's the soul. And through the soul uses the moon to reflect itself into the world. And so all these sacred things are actually science based. They're actually numerological based, where you get into numbers 1, 2, and 3. So all the religions, the tarot, are all archetypal personification, coded symbols that are actually personifying vibrational potential, which is fundamentally numbers. And so
mm.
it's super fascinating. I mean, yeah, I could talk about it for a long time. So
And you talked about how it like has really evolved over time. And the numbers switch up. So what's like the biggest misconception that people have about numerology?
Misconception. Well, okay, so Western numerology is the most popular one, just kind of like how Western astrology is born out of the Eastern astrology system, and it's kind of streamlined more. They don't, like, for example, Western astrology, they don't have nakshatras, which are 27 stars, and the whole Eastern system is built off the back of the stars. Your houses are made up of the stars. Like this, the numerology, Western numerology is more of a streamlined. So what happened was, the story goes, Pythagorean, the guy who invented the Pythagorean numerology, which is the Western numerology, originally learned from the Chaldeans and all that. He came from that tradition. He kind of made his own thing, and then he had circles and of initiates, and only those who were very close to the master had the true knowledge. But none of the knowledge was written down. It was all via oral, which was the old ways of doing things. Everything was transmitted orally. And so the people that started taking Pythagorean and making it into its own system were actually people that were coming from the outer circles that didn't have the real knowledge. And so that's sort of the backstory of the Pythagorean, which one of the biggest differences, couple, is Pythagoreans reduce everything down to single digits. They don't consider the compound numbers. So in Chaldean, the number 12, which they would say is 12-3 because 12/3, because 12 is 1 plus 2 is 3. 12 is different than 21, which is also 2 plus 1 equals 3, which is different than 30, which is 3 plus 0. So these subtleties are very, very important, and the way that they analyze the numbers is very, very important. They use something called number diamonds or number triangles, which is a different topic. And the other biggest difference is Pythagoreans assign the number to the different letters based on that order it appears in the alphabet. So A is 1 because A is the first letter in the alphabet, where Chaldean assigns the value to the letters based on the phonetics. So it's back to this vibration, this science of vibration. So it's based on like some letters you have to put your tongue more closer to the front of your mouth versus more sounds that come from the back of the throat. And so the energies are assigned based on their creative potential, because sound is creative, not on the organizational principle, which is the order they appear in the alphabet, which will change. So those are some of the main differences, and there's a lot more. Chaldean is a much more in-depth, robust system. And I don't know if I answered your question about misconceptions, but that was where it came to me as the comparison between those two.
But how does that work if there's so many different languages? Is it based off like Latin or
Well, because it's based off phonetics. So, for example, whether
phonetics?
you're in Latin or you're in German or you're in Spanish, saying different sounds in a certain, there's only so many combinations of say sounds. So sounds that are more coming from the back of the throat are going to have certain values versus the front. And like this, that's the universality of it. Versus where they appear in the alphabet, that's only going to be relevant to that particular alphabet versus relative to that culture. If that makes
Okay.
sense.
And if someone was new to numerology, like a lot of what you're saying to me still sounds foreign. Like I keep hearing it over and over again, but some people are not ready for that deep information. So if someone were to want to dive into numerology and wanted to get the right information, how would you recommend they do it?
Well, um, I would recommend starting with Chaldean or Chaldean numerology. That is the best way. The shortest answer is start by studying and learning Chaldean numerology.
Okay. And let's just do like a shameless plug of your services right now because I want to know, like, if someone wanted to reach out to you and they didn't want to do that heavy legwork, what
Yeah,
are like the type of services that you have that you could help guide people in whatever phase they're in their life? So maybe they want to seek help with like something personal or with their business or just to know more about themselves.
yeah. Well, let's try to make this fun too. So I've done many readings, and so I do live readings, which is great for pulling up your chart, looking at it, and it's very intuitional based. Also, I use it's not like prepared, but it's intuitional based, and there's a secret to how it works. It's because there's an alchemy when you sit with the person their aura kind of reflects through me. It's just the way that I'm set up. And so I can sit with somebody and read them and be able to understand what they need to know right now. And so it's really good as a coaching base. So I do that. But some of the fun readings, like the readings that I've had the greatest aha moments with clients who have like report the best results is when I go into their shadow and help them to understand their potential imbalances. This is where people have the greatest like shifts and transformation that I've observed so far. So that one's fun. I do readings around perfect timing, I call it, which is a phrase I have coined called numeroastrology, which is a combination of Vedic astrology and Chaldean numerology, also something called Akara numerology, which is kind of off the back of Chaldean. And I look at your cycles. I study what's going on for you right now. What are you supposed to do to align with time? What's coming for you? Do you have questions about when you start a business, have a baby, get married, all that? We can analyze and find out when are good times coming up and what you should be doing to go with the flow so you're not resisting time, but you are maximizing it, because time is cyclical. It's like a wave. And if you know what the wave wants you to do, you can surf versus kind of getting, caught up in the undercurrent and just getting kind of tossed around. And then I have one called Success Code, which is about understanding your operating system, how you're supposed to go to the world, how you're supposed to arrange your mindset, how you're supposed to express yourself, different activities that you can do. There's a lot of success codes coded in your numerology based on your birth date. And I can talk about why numerology is more fundamental than astrology and all that too. We can talk about that in a different part as well. But of all of those things, my absolute favorite is name numerology. That is my bread and butter, my passion, and I'm most certified in as well, but the most impactful. The name is so much more powerful than people realize, and that's a whole conversation to itself. So I will confine myself. I have to keep trying to confine myself because I can literally go on a rant, so you have to interrupt me as well sometimes. I can just talk forever if I wanted to.
Okay. So the one thing for me that I think people would be most skeptical to do is the name numerology. And if
Yeah.
someone was just so, because names are so personal, right? Our parents give it to us. There's a lot of emotional attachment to it. Like we grow up with them. I mean, some people want their name changed, right? I met this girl in Bali who like wanted to go through another phase in her life, so she just completely changed her name. And she felt like that intuition to do it. But if someone is just like super hesitant about the idea, like, can you give us a story that kind of validates how name numerology has an impact on people's lives? For example, I know you did one on Elon Musk's daughter, but you're welcome to use that as an example. But if there's another example that you can give to someone who's skeptical, like, what is it?
Yeah, and so I have some background noise. Hopefully we can maybe edit that out and post. Yeah.
It was like,
So
"Grr."
this is a fun topic. So first of all, to answer your first question about what is a solution if you're really attached to your name, your parents. So I legally changed my name. I changed my last name. And so back in the day when everyone was using numerology, back when this was common, um, only the mother and the person knew the real legal name. And this came from the gods, because the gods as we know them, like Ganesha or Thoth or whatever, these are actually titles. Their names are kept secret. And so this technology was carried forward in the human world because the gods taught man. It's a whole side topic of who the gods were. But you can set up a DBA, which is called doing business as, or a nickname, or a going by name. So the legal name, the moral of the story is the legal name holds the power. That's the name that's established legally, the binding contract, Social Security, your birth certificate, your passport, your driver's license, your bank cards, your bank. But you can also just go by that whatever name you want. So if you're really attached to a name, for example, my parents, I'm like, listen, you can call me whatever you want. You can still call me my birth name. You don't have to call me the new name. In fact, I wouldn't expect you to. So as far as we're concerned, our relationship, you call me the same thing. There's no problem, and we just carry on this way. So different people will call me different names based on how they know me and how they first met me. But the legal name is what has the power. So that's the workaround. So that's one thing. Now, real life case studies, I have many. I have, and my Substack, I have several of these posted. I go really in depth if you want to nerd out and like go into the details. My Substack is substack.com/at Aumra, AAUMMRA. And you can have, it's all free, the archives as well. So I did a reading on a woman who legally changed her name due to a marriage, and that created a heart attack. So when before her name change, she had a certain number in her heart, because I can map your vibrational patterns in your body as well. Name has a major influence over your health, sexual energy, your career, your charm and charisma, your emotions, how you see and feel yourself, as well as your cash flow, your personal brand, your relationships, friends, your romantic relationships, all this, right? So I can see all these things. She had a certain energy in her heart before her name that was putting a lid on a bunch of unbalanced potential coming from her essence, which stands behind it. As soon as she got married, that protection came off her heart, and in its place came one of the karmic penalty numbers, which is 44-8, right on her heart. And when that 44-8 appeared in her destiny rose, also sometimes called year ranks, or there's different names. It's a Chaldean Numerology prediction calculations. When that 44 popped up there, it activated the 44-8 here, karma penalty, and it had a karmic release as a heart attack. I've seen, yeah, and that was from a name change. I've seen another guy have a severe head injury. I've seen a woman who had like stroke-like symptoms when she changed her name from a marriage, because when she changed her name, all the numbers I sat in front of her, she said, I could tell her what side of the body it was on. It was on the left side of her body, which is all mapped in the numerology, and so she was having like parts of this side of her body wasn't working the same. And this is from legal name changes, and there's so many. Yes, Elon Musk, that's the recent one I did. Also Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison, I did one on them. Why Nikola Tesla, for example, was more passionate about innovation, not so much about money. That was seen through his name, versus Thomas Edison, who was more all about the money. So he would sacrifice his morals and his principles in order to get money. Exactly, yes. So there's a big case study on my blog, on my Substack about that one. And then the Elon Musk one, that's a deep topic. So
okay, wait, let me ask you this before you dive into that. So
yeah.
when you find these in their chart, are you like, yo, you got to change your name? Like, do they do it? Like, what do you advise in that point when you find
Well,
these?
sometimes, so fortunately, the woman who had the stroke-like symptoms, she was receptive to it, so she did change. Some people are not, though, and this is the thing. So the reason that you will be attracted to or not attracted to changing your name is because the name is a karma potential, right? Until you exhaust or balance out that karma to a certain degree, you're not going to be attracted to changing it. It will seem repulsive. The idea will just be like, oh, why would I do that? For those people who have exhausted that and it no longer serves them anymore, and a shift is happening in the time, this is also be predicted by cycles, all of a sudden they'll be so receptive to change their name, and they'll seek out name change and stuff like this. So some people, unfortunately, the woman who had the heart attack, for example, she was not receptive to it, and so she's carrying forward with that name, and it'll take care of itself. It's just the way that it goes.
Do you think that maybe it's giving too much power to like our name though? Like we're more than just our name and what happens to us?
Well, the name is potential, so the name is not necessarily dictating, although it does influence the destiny very, very much and what happens in your life. So your name is one of the calculations used to predict your destiny in Chaldean Numerology. So your full name expression is sometimes called the destiny number. It is something that you can manage. So for example, let's make this practical, right? Let's say you have in your name high potential for anxiety. Okay? So if you look at a lot of the billionaire charts, for example, a lot of these guys have overwork potential, anxiety, stress, energy, but they learn how to focus and channel it into productive ways that makes them money. A lot of the billionaires have this. You'll see this over and over. Like you look at their name charts, like this is terrible. Like, how is this guy successful? You understand they've harnessed, it's like they've lassoed a dragon. And there are other certain things that helps them to lasso that dragon, which is a different topic. But you can see very clearly they're wired for success, but they are not wired to enjoy success. That's why a lot of these people who are rich, they're miserable. They're addicted to their work, their career. They often will sacrifice their relationships in the pursuit of more and more money. Like, they can't turn it off. All they know is to go out and achieve, because they're wired that way. So the potential will be there. You can learn to manage that potential and even cultivate strength out of it, which is certainly the case. But the name, you can't deny its influence. And when you start studying name numerology, over and over, you see the same patterns of people doing the same things at certain events and circumstances. It's uncanny, and you can't ignore it anymore. For me, it's more of a science. It's not. So I'm big about taking all this religious stuff and bringing it into the realm of science, because that's what it originally started as. But they were using a different vernacular, which to us in modern times, where we're using dimethyltryptamine and DNA and functional magnetic resonance imaging, our vernacular is totally different. Their vernacular sounds superstitious because we don't understand it. It's actually all coded. All their vernacular is coded symbols. It's a science. It's a science of sound, a science of vibration, as we mentioned. Sound is a fundamental building block to consciousness and matter. Consciousness and therefore matter. So your name, you can't get rid of it, but you can manage it. So it is a potential that can be managed, but it's always going to be there.
To dumb it down, it's kind of like it's like DNA, right? But it needs to be activated. It's like code, right? Like epigenetics.
Yes, and actually the cycles of time are activating your name. So your name, if all the potentials were firing at once, it would be chaos. So they're actually, imagine them like they're loaded guns. They all fire in sequence based on the rollout of time, which you can use the time to see when the person's going to have a heart attack, for example. I just did a reading with a woman the other day, and she just started a certain period that activated energy in her chart, which now all of a sudden she's not interested in having friends. She's like, she wants to be isolated and by herself because she has this number 7 energy that's her part of her cycle activate the 16-7 in her root chakra. 16-7 is all about isolation, being by yourself. You're sacrificing your ego for unity. It's a meditative number. It's about seeking the truth within. And as soon as that 7 popped up in her cycle, it turned that on, and all of a sudden now she's away from friends. And also, what did she say? Anxiety started. She's like, all of a sudden in 2023, I started having anxiety. And it was weird because I was usually the person who people would come around to feel real calm around. Like, people would come by her and everyone would kind of relax. Now she said, I'm just anxious all the time. I look, okay, let me see. 2023, that is the exact year you started your 7 destiny rhythm, which turned on the 16-7. And 16-7 is one of the 3 main anxiety numbers. It's arguably the highest anxiety potential of all. So that flipped that on. All of a sudden now she's having anxiety, and that potential wasn't activated before. Now it's activated because the cycles of time are turning it on in her life.
Okay.
Now, if she had a different name, this would be a different story.
Did you advise her to change her name, or what did you do at that point?
I did actually, and she's very open to it, and she's actually pursuing it.
Okay. Does it have to be through contract with paper, or can it be the other way around? Can you just change your name but still have your name the same on paper, like your original name?
Yes, so there is a way to do this. Okay, so there is ways of using an altar. So I have a whole video about altar, which I ground that in the scientific realm as well. An altar is a way to anchor things into your unconscious, which your unconscious is more powerful than your conscious mind. There are ways of using like your altar. Also, when I changed my name in 2022, I changed my name several times over the course of many years. Legally, I didn't change it officially legally until this year. But when I changed my name through the altar work and spiritual work, I actually activated it. So after I changed that name, my friends changed, my money changed, I started getting passive income. I changed countries. I moved from United States to Mexico. I also met certain people. So like, our friend Jessica, I did a reading on her, and I did a deep dive analysis on her race, and I realized why her and I met after I changed my name because of the number 19. So my original name, Amunra, was 19, and that brought us together like a magnets. And there's a reason for this, which I'd have to go into her chart to explain this, but yes, so just even changing your name can do a lot of things, but and I made a video about this before. You have to be very careful about, don't just pick, oh, that's a cool name number, or that name sounds cool, because you have to understand what's going on. So I've given case studies of the heart attack, the head injury, the stroke-like symptoms. Actually, there was another guy, Greg Giraldo. I did a case study on him, a famous insult comedian. You may know him. He's famous for roasting celebrities. He died at age 44, and the reason he died was actually related to his name as well. He suffered a karmic penalty because of his drug use, which killed him. He died at 44 during a 44 major period, a 44 minor period. I'm getting nerdy here, but 44 is karmic penalty. So yes, you have to be careful about just grabbing a wrong name. I got lucky with a Moonra because this was before I knew what I know now. I had some level of numerology, but not to the extent that I know now.
Hmm.
And that's why that name didn't ultimately stick. It ultimately had a shelf life.
From a practical sense, all I could think of is like, how do you date? Because you change your name so much. And like, okay, as a woman, I'm gonna look you up to see if like, obviously, I'm gonna do a background check on you. Like, bro, why did you change your name so much? So
Well, I usually don't
that just
change my
like,
name as much. I don't. I'm in a period right now where I'm solidifying the new name. So actually,
okay. Okay, but
um,
legally, how many times did you change your name?
only once. I'm going to be doing it
Okay.
again. I'm going to be doing it again. So this new name that I'm moving into is something that I could do long term. So it,
Hmm.
it's just this is the way it is. Because what happened was, in order to get to the name that I'm going to now, I had to change my name the first time. It's like a chain reaction. You can't skip steps. There's a certain script that happens. So when you activate certain potentials, not only does it change your life, but also makes possible new doors. It's like it opens up new doors that weren't available before. So by changing my name the first time, opened up the door where it attracted me to Mexico, attracted me to meet our friend Jessica, which is how we met. But then that led to something else. And so it's like this process of opening up new doors as well that you're stepping through. When you go through that door, there's going to be opportunities that you weren't able to conceive before. So yeah, honestly, right now, to answer your question, people you still call me a moon rod. A lot of people still call me a moon rod, so I'm okay with that. It is what it is. But also, when
Okay.
I want to know about the girl, so I always get the birthday of the person and their name.
Crazy.
I have to know
But
because when
don't would it wasn't that taking away the magic, just like figuring it out as you go? Or you're getting you don't think it's like so technical?
well, yes, so I balance it. Like I had a recent relationship with with a person you know very well.
Okay.
And I didn't do anything there. That was a connection that just happened, and it was very magnetic. And I didn't look at the numerology stuff till later. But nowadays, if the opportunity presents itself, it's one. I don't. It's not like, hey, I'm not going to talk to you unless you give me your birthday first. It's not like that. But at some point, I want to know their information to give me an idea of like, are we compatible? Is this going to have a long term? Is it going to be a waste of our time? At this point in my life, I'm not looking to waste my time. So if I was ever to pursue a serious relationship, I would certainly want to know how we would be compatible over time. I think that's reasonable. We are essentially who we are, Nene and Amunra, Almra. We're just a permutation, a bunch of vibrations interacting. We think we're a person, we have a personification, but we're really just potentials. And so it's good to know how those potentials are gonna come together, what can be possible challenges, and it's part of what I do. It's just like you can't turn it off.
I gotcha. Okay, well, let me ask you this last question. I'm curious.
Okay?
So Nene is my gaming name because I don't want my government name out there. Fuck no. Um, it just prevents the creeps from like looking you up and doxing you. But okay, say a lot of people online have like alter egos, right? They have different
Yeah.
names. They go by different names. Do you know I Show Speed? He's like a
Yep.
streamer. So
Yeah.
like
Interesting birthday, but that guy's got the perfect influencer birthday.
Really?
That would be a good case
Really?
study. Yeah, I've taken a peek. It's amazing. Yeah.
Okay, what about his gamer name? Did that impact his success, like I show speed or speed?
I actually
And
haven't looked
if
up his name. I've only seen his birthday, so I haven't
okay,
deep dived into his name, but I could do that actually. Maybe I could look at it now. But are you very interested? Is it burning?
it's
Uh
not bird.
oh.
Okay, it's
My
because a
computer.
lot of people want to be online now and like become an influencer and say they want to have a different name out there, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
How
yeah.
would you go about that?
Okay, so a lot of actors do this. A lot of them go by stage names. I just did a case study, for example, on Hulk Hogan, which is also my Substack, which was around his death. But during that case study, you could see why he went with the name Hulk Hogan, which is what made him famous, actually, when he
Do
went
you
to
think he
change.
went to a numerologist or he just chose that for himself?
Well, you
And
know,
it just came naturally, like it gave him fame.
you look at these celebrities. I study Fortune 500 companies. I study celebrities. It's too common to say that they're all doing on accident. Definitely the companies are, because you can see the companies are using the same thing. I've told you the other day about number 28, the number of the billionaire number, the number of wealth. Many companies are using this number intentionally. Apple, 28 Life Path, Coca-Cola 28, or is it Google's 28? They're using this number, and Berkshire Hathaway 28, Vanguard using 28. These companies know what it is, and so the celebrities are using it. There's a quote by J.P. Morgan: "Only the billionaires are using astrology, not millionaires." I forget the exact quote, but it's not just astrology, but it's also numerology as well. So it's very clear. My opinion, I think they are using numerologists. I think they know what they're doing. I think they have their little boys clubs where they have these elite networks where some guy says, "Hey, come to my numerologist," or whatever. I think they know what they're doing for sure.
Mhm.
It would be very lucky otherwise. It would be like getting struck by lightning 3 times in the same day while winning the lottery. Like, it's possible, but is it really going to happen? I mean, that many times in a row.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm curious to know like how this works in pop culture because there's so many, I wouldn't say podcast hosts that are really bad, but there's this one called Call Your Daddy, and everyone, do you
I
know about
know.
it?
I've heard. Yeah, I know this. This is it's the girl.
It's the girl, but her interviewing
She used to
style
be
is
popular a while
she's
ago. She
popular.
fell off.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen her recently.
Yeah. Well, in a pop culture sense, I'd love to see how that works. Like I show speed. He's so big, but he's also so magnetic as a creator. So
That's from his birthday. I mean, I've seen his birthday. He has like the number 32, which is the number of the influencer. His whole birthday, it's not just like one thing. His whole birthday is like designed for him to be an influencer. So I can see just by his birthday alone, he'd be very, very successful in that. And the thing
so
is
it's
with
more
the
by his
name,
birthday, not his name.
well, that's what I was going to segue into. The name actually, your birthday is potential, but your name is what influences how that potential manifests into the world. Also, what could potentially block it. So you can have the potential for something, but if your name isn't aligned, you can have a lot of problems. Not just blockages, but also health problems, relationship problems, because your name and your birthday are not in sync. So it's like a dissonance. It's like trying to it's like fingernails on a chalkboard. It's like a noise, a sound that's not conducive for harmonious expression. So I would wager that his name is very much supportive. In fact, maybe I'll go look at it and do a case study on it today.
Yeah. Honestly, we should do an episode where we just like
Do
look
that?
people
Yeah,
up.
that'd be
Yeah.
fun. That
Like
would
a
be fun.
business influencer pop culture episode. And you could
That
break
would be
that down.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe look at we can just pull up some of my case studies I already have done on my Substack and just blow through some of those. There's some really Coca-Cola in particular there's a reason they're the longest running, most recognizable brand in the world. It's the way they set up their name in particular. There's a secret
Mm.
that they did, and I kind of share it in my Substack. But name numerology is a science, man. It's I just want to caution again, be very careful. Don't be choosing cool names and then changing it or something like that. If you're getting married, you really would want to consult with a numerologist if you're going to legally change your name, because some people get married, the women, they change their name, their personalities change, the people fall out of love, they have a lot of problems, and this is coming from the name change. So it
Mm.
actually changes a lot of how they operate, how their mind works, and especially the last name has a major influence on close relationships.
Interesting. Me
Hmm.
choosing a random gamer name and sticking with it.
I kind of want to look that up now. Could you
Okay, let's
spell
look
it?
it up real quick and then we'll end it there when you give me my diagnosis.
Okay, it's a good name for you. It's a 20. So you are, I don't want to share put all your business out there, but let's just say
All
number
right.
two, number two is a very, can I share your birthday and your life path? Or is that too much? What do you think?
Let's do life path instead of
Okay,
birthday.
so your life path, I mean, so your, the day of birth, the day of the month.
Yeah,
Is that
sure.
too much? Okay, so you're born on a 7 day and you're a 11 life path. 7 and 11 go very, very well together. It's called the soulmate pair, and that's why 7 and 11, the company, the business, which I did a massive case study on as well, they use 7 and 11 for a reason, and they founded their company using that energy, and that's why they were so successful. So Nene is a 20, and so 20 and 7, 2 and 7, 11 and 7, they go together very, very well. So this is a good number, a good name for you actually. It's got 4 letters, so it's a good for the number 2 because 4 helps to contain the 2, and 4 is part of the way that the 2 gains power, and it pyramids out to a 4 as well. So this is a number 20 is about following your passions. It does have a good influence on the collective unconsciousness, so it can be very charismatic. So number 20 is one of the top numbers with politicians. It's one of the
Uh-oh.
politician numbers because they have a gift for listening to and having a huge influence on the collective unconscious, which is in tarot. So tarot is the judgment card, this big angel blowing a trumpet, and these people on the earth are kind of coming to life. The 20 has an ability to have a massive impact on the collective unconscious. So it will make you kind of fun and fun loving, charming, and also probably having a little more of an impact than you realize, but makes people want to be around you. And yeah,
Dude, that's awesome. It's even more impressive how you could just pull from like tarot and the tarot has the number and everything connects. That's just
it
so amazing
is.
to me. Yeah, like this is
And
not surface level
the connecting
stuff.
thread is all numerology. That's the point.
Yeah.
So the moon, for example, is the number 2, and the number 2 has the qualities of the moon as well. So this is how it all comes together.
Cool. I think we could end it there. That was a really cool ending and
That was a little
diagnosis.
fun.
I know. I tried so hard not to like stray off topic because it can go so many ways. But I think a pop culture episode would be really fun.
I think also an episode where we just go off top. We just go into the rabbit holes
Oh
and we just,
yeah.
like our calls when we're not recording, we just flow. That could also be fun because who knows where we'll end up. And yeah. So we have plenty of time. So let's keep going. And I hope you all who are watching this enjoyed this as much as I think I had a lot of fun making this. So we'll see what happens. But thanks to Nene for making herself available for this. And thanks to everyone for watching.
And thank you, Amunra. Almra.
Okay.
Whatever,
Uh,
whatever.
Amun Ra is fine. Almra is fine as well. And actually, it might be changing to Almray, so that coming soon. Okay, until next time, wishing you all the best. Happy manifesting. God bless. Oh.
All right. Oh, peace.